welcome back to yet another edition of Survive to Thrive. And today we're going to be talking about patience. So, a couple stories to enlighten this venue here. In the aspects of you ever have stuff that comes full circle? Things that you've processed through in your own life, and you kind of thought they were gone, and then they just come full circle. So I'm standing on the sidelines after a rough weekend of football. I am the medical director for the Elko Junior Football League, and I love doing it because I can be actually a huge resource. I've seen so many sports injuries, and I've seen so many things that I can make calls that your general public, not to pick on coaches, but they're good at coaching. They may not have seen the injuries, know what to do with injuries, but quickly we can see a concussion. We can see if something's more severe. And that's not the point of this from an aspect of just, I get to be on the sidelines, and I love doing it. I have my background in it as an athletic trainer, working in college and sports teams, and all the way up through my chiropractic degree. But anyways, here I am on the sidelines, qualified to be there is what I was saying, and evaluating some things and going through, and Kellen's playing defensive back, so he's starting defensive back for his little team, and he had a great game, and he gets subbed in as receiver. And one of the things the coaches said is just like, be by my side so I can put you in. And he was talking to a couple kids. And interesting enough, I see him standing in the back of a pile. Like the line of kids that are all on the sidelines, and he's sitting back. And this is serving twofold, because he gets to listen to this today as he gets to produce it and learn something. So this is one that I'm going to make him listen all the way through. Believe it or not, my family hardly ever listens to my podcast. It's all right. I talk about stuff. I'm like, did you hear that on there? I know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd listen to theirs. Just getting vindictive, though. The concept, though, that this is going to go into is that I've taught my entire life. I've taught my kids, and I've been this way, of patience. But I've seen patience as this static form. This is going to be crucial for you today. Patience as a static form. Like it is just, it's like a form of self-denial. It's denying basically anything that comes avail, because you're supposed to be patient. And so here I see Kellen on the sidelines just being patient. And he was this way, and it triggered, and I don't know if this is how he perceived it, and we're going to talk about this. I don't know if this is what he was thinking, but I look over and I go, Kelly, you got to get up by the coach. And he's like, he just kind of waves out his hands like, all these people in front of me. And I don't want to disrupt anybody, and I don't want to go after what I want. I don't want to actually be with what my coach said to be, because I don't want to disrupt these people. I'm going to be patient. I'll sit back. When they need me, they'll come get me, which is kind of a cool way to be. And, but it is also a cool way to kind of just have a slow death. So when you look at this, now I grew up ski racing. Some of you may know, not know, doesn't matter, it really matter. But in ski racing, it's basically one person goes on a course, right? So it's not like a team goes down a course. It's like when you're practicing, there's just runs. And I was chronically this guy that let everybody else go first. I was always the last guy down the course. So like, I always looked at like, ooh, there's a new beautiful course, and this snow was buffed out, and that's like, I could get to go first, but no, it's okay, I'll be patient. Because that's the way I was theoretically taught. Now, here's the deal on patience. If you go with me on this, and you're one of these peoples, you cannot start to point fingers. It's very easy to point fingers at mom and dad for raising this way, religion, all these types of things. So patience as a virtue was actually something that we held near and dear, because it was taught, and it was like, virtues are cool things. I knew what virtues were, right? I thought they were biblical. Don't really know, but they have and contain like a high moral ground, right? So it's a high moral ground that you're working towards. So patience as a virtue is basically denial is a high moral ground. And so as I further research into this was nothing that actually was set forth by God, if you will, in scriptures, but I believed it to be true. And see, here's the concept. I took it for my perceptions. There was a label that was put up there, and I'm like, cool, I'll take this and I'll put it on. I am patient because it's what I'm supposed to do. I will be rewarded for being patient. And so I sit here and I be patient, right? And this is the concept. Static patience literally will kill you. And so I go to research this a little bit more, and I find out that it was just basically developed and attributed to some maybe poets, some of the writers back in the day. You go back to some of the, like Cato was actually maybe credited with it for like the 4th century. So in maybe the 300s, they talked about psychomania, which was talking about how they were fighting against like wrath and paganism and all sorts of stuff. And so the opposite of that was what? It was humility and hope and sobriety and chastity. So these are the concepts that were developed back then to fight what we knew were moral, less than high grounds, moral inequities, and those types of things. Then it further goes on to maybe being credited to like the Canterbury Tales or Piers Plowman. It's all over the place. But bottom line, it wasn't like, hey, this is scriptural. It was just man's perceptions of actually the moral high ground. And so you put this in today's realm and it doesn't really work. And so the tip and the trick today that I'm going to actually give you is defining what patience actually is. Patience is good, but patience in static form will literally kill you. Like you literally waiting around. Everybody's heard that story of like you keep praying and you keep praying and you keep praying and you keep praying. And like that, the floodwaters are coming up. And a boat comes by and like, hey, we'll take you. And a helicopter comes by and the hey, we'll take you. And you're being patient for God to save you. And the floodwaters come higher and higher and you drown. You go up to heaven and it's God, why did you not save me? And the concept was God's like, I sent you a boat and a helicopter. What else do you need? All right, they're fun stories. But it's the concept that patience is made to be dynamic. And here's what I mean by this. Dynamic patience is basically when you are moving, there is a patience that needs to be in your daily rhythm. Okay? If you consider like being patient in your body, I'm just going to wait for my body to come into alignment. I'm waiting for my body to come into alignment so I can actually have a healthy body weight versus going out and doing the work. We know that the body will literally die on the vine, so to speak. It will rot if you're not moving. So to be patient in body doesn't make any sense. But is there a patience in that? Yes, where there's a recovery, where you're not doing too much. There's a patience in every step. There's a rhythm that gets created. Think about this. Is there a patience with God? Well, oftentimes religion, or patience with purpose, if you will, oftentimes in religion we get taught that patience is actually what? It's a virtue. So we come back and say we're supposed to be patient with God. So we just sit back and wait. Whereas it couldn't be any further from the truth if you think about the fact that you're supposed to go out and get closer to your likeness. You're supposed to move. The whole journey of life is about movement. It's about learning as you go. It's about getting more stuff. Too many people sit back and actually wait for that revelation, or waiting for what? God to show up, to their purpose to show up, to be enlightened, versus going out and actually moving in that. You know, the beauty, and I can use so many concepts on this, the beauty in music is the patience between the notes. You can create with patience between the notes. It's the pause between the words. You see the impact that starts to happen. There's a little bit of patience that goes in. It is that pause between the steps when you are moving, when you are running. You see, patience exists in a dynamic form. It doesn't have to be static. But see, I grew up with a mindset, and this is my own, maybe it's yours, and it doesn't have to be, but it was my own perceptions of patience, was to sit back and let everybody else go after what they wanted because it was that way. I was the guy that would hold the door in the restaurant and watch all the people come in and put their name on the reservations and be like, what the hell? Like, is there not civility, and get mad at the people versus actually understanding that there is a patience, but not to be actually patient in certain scenarios. Meaning like, yeah, I'll hold the door, but then we go. All right. We can actually have a balance of these types of things. And so the tip and the trick for you today is recognizing maybe where you've been sitting back and just waiting, that you had this definition of patience as a virtue, as a moral high ground, versus understanding that patience can be in a dynamic form. See, I grew up with patience as static. Just wait around. Your day will come. Your ship will come in. All of these types of concepts, right? And we've heard all the terms. Your ship will come in. Your day will come. Just be patient for it. And you sit around and literally get more bitter and bitter and bitter and bitter at life. It never works out for you. Versus going out and creating and understanding that there's such a patience before you move. In business, we actually talk about this in the aspects of like, hey, I'm going to make a decision. Boom, hold on a second. Let me analyze it. Fits right here. Maybe potentially it fits on a napkin. I'm thinking about it, and then I go. There's a pause before I go. All right? In body, there's a rest and recovery after what? Movement. But you're still moving. Active recovery is what we talk about. With God, you're supposed to move in purpose. You're supposed to move towards the likeness. If you haven't read it yet, The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis talks about there's nearness, and there's nearness in approach. And it's nearness in approach as you are actually trying to become something more. All right? But there's tons of patience with that because you're getting somewhere, but you're still moving. You're not waiting. Do you see the dynamic patience versus static patience? So for you today is identifying, like me, where you were actually being static in patience, because that's what it was not meant to be. Yeah, get off the moral high ground like you're being better than somebody else. There are patience that we can learn, meaning that we can have patience in certain scenarios, but it has to come with dynamics, meaning that we're actually patient and moving. We're moving through this. You get on the helicopter and you sit and wait. Okay, I took that step and now I'm being patient because there's another step to be had. So comment on this on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you see this, and define for you where you've actually been patient, meaning in statics, waiting back for something to happen versus going out and creating it and finding the patience in between those steps, in between those notes as the symphony starts to develop. Patience was never meant to be static. It was meant to have movement. It was meant to be dynamic. And that is the tip and trick for today. It's pushing through that crowd. It's pushing through that crowd, knowing that you are the one to be there for that. And then you wait by the coach to get to that next step, to get into and play the game that you are meant to play. In love and light, bringing truths every day. This is Survive to Thrive with Dr. Todd. We'll talk to you tomorrow.